Selamat sejahtera dan selamat sepupu. You know, Malaysia exports semiconductors, palm oil, walaunism, and so many other wonderful things that reflect our status as a first world economy. But you know, recently, there's been one very special export. You know what it is? Foreign interference. Fresh after the past foreign interference saga in Singapore just last week, Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim himself is getting scolded, and it is because of this post right here. Okay, on first glance, that is actually kind of innocuous, but as it turns out, the Indian media considered it anything but. Check out what Firstpost had to say about that.
We look for partners. We don't look for preachers.
Tensions are clearly simmering, and that too between two nuclear neighbors, so the world is rightly worried. Major powers are advising caution and restraint. Some are positioning themselves as mediators. The question is, what's in it for these peace brokers?
Wow, so suspicious, Palki.
Can India trust them? And what is their plan? Well, Iran is hoping to be one such mediator. Their foreign minister landed in Islamabad yesterday. He is slated to visit India on Thursday. And what's he saying? That all parties should exercise restraint. It is not clear if these visits were planned after the attack. Nonetheless, they're very important. The next mediator is Malaysia. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif spoke to the Malaysian Prime Minister yesterday. And look at his statement afterwards. Malaysia remains open to playing a constructive role. Our close ties with both Pakistan and India place us in a position to support efforts towards regional peace and stability. So Malaysia is keen to mediate, and the list does not end there. Pakistan has reached out to Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Kuwait. It is asking all these players to mediate. And how is India reacting? Well, we haven't heard a direct response yet, but yesterday Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar addressed the broader issue. He did not speak about Iran or the Gulf mediators. He was speaking about the powers in Europe, and they too, by the way, are asking India to not escalate. So this is what Jaishankar said. New Delhi does not need preachers, it needs partners.
We look for partners. We don't look for preachers. Particularly preachers who don't practice at home what they preach abroad. And I think some of Europe is still struggling with that problem.
Ooh!
Some of it is changing. If we are to develop a partnership, there has to be some understanding, there has to be some sensitivity, there has to be a mutuality of interest, and there has to be a realization of how the world works.
So there's this adage that goes something like, you can't give what you don't have. And I think that's kind of like referring to this idea that people who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. If you haven't settled everything in your country, if you can't even settle mediating between the different ethnic groups of your country, which is, by the way, exactly what happens in Malaysia, then you maybe shouldn't be trying to mediate. Anyway.
Partners need not mean mediators. And I'll give you two reasons why. Number one, these are not neutral brokers. Iran's supreme leader has repeatedly meddled in Kashmir. He has compared Kashmir to Gaza and Yemen. So Tehran cannot be unbiased here. Same with Malaysia. Their Prime Minister says he understands Pakistan's difficulties. How absurd is that? The terror attack happened in India, but Malaysia understands Pakistan's difficulty. Also, they do not recognize Jammu and Kashmir. They call it Indian-administered Kashmir. Even yesterday's statement was the same.
They're just not happy with the bias, which is, I totally understand. I completely understand. And to the Indian people who are watching this right now, trust me, we know our Prime Minister, and you've just got a taste of it.
So these are not neutral mediators. They have taken Pakistan's side quite frequently. Which brings us to the second reason, and arguably the most important one. India does not need any mediator. New Delhi has always called Kashmir a bilateral issue, meaning there is room for just two parties here, and that is India and Pakistan. No other party, no third party has a place here. Not Iran, not the Americans, not even well-meaning Gulf states. Yes, they may have close ties with New Delhi, but they also have historic relations with Pakistan. So why risk it? Of course, Islamabad will keep pushing for mediation because that is their only hope. They have a twin agenda here. One is to globalize the Kashmir issue. If it remains bilateral, Pakistan cannot compete with India because India is way more powerful. But if other countries join in, they can try and build pressure on New Delhi, and that has always been Pakistan's strategy. Hence their attempt to raise Kashmir at multilateral forum. They want to globalize the Kashmir issue. The second agenda is to distract the world. Just think about it. What triggered these tensions? It was Pakistan's terrorism. That's what started it. But what is the world talking about now? An India-Pakistan conflict. About the spectre of a nuclear confrontation. It's a classic distraction attempt. Islamabad does not want the world to focus on terrorism. It wants the world to see an India-Pakistan conflict. Only then can it play the victim card. The question is, how should India navigate this? Well, mediation is a slippery slope. It may help during full-scale wars, but it does not help in times like this. In fact, it opens up the arena to new players. You cannot control what those players want, you cannot control their politics, and you cannot control their tactics. India would be wise to remember that.
Wow. You know, it's kind of hard to fight an argument because she's absolutely right and he's absolutely right. But you know, in Malaysia, people are full on terasa. Even right now, the president of ABIM has come out now saying that it was unprofessional and undiplomatic for Firstpost to allegedly belittle Anwar during that fun little exchange. How could you act contrary to the spirit of international diplomacy like that? What he doesn't know is that right now in Malaysia, it is not, oh no, let's go out and defend our Prime Minister. No, like a vast majority of Malaysians are actually insulting the man. Like, we are saying, stop bothering, stop getting involved. It is none of your business. Here, let me read some comments for you from my own YouTube channel. Alright, what do we have? It is India which suffer from terrorism, yet Anwar's trying to defend Pakistan. I guess Muslims support Muslim no matter right or wrong. It's disappointing. Ooh. Tiger never changed his stripes. He never changed outside to gather support. Seemed he supported everyone. Now true colours have emerged after securing his desired position. Ooh! Didn't he realise that he become that sibuk sangat nak jaga tepi kain orang lain, so embarrassing. Ooh! And he thought he was Trump and Xi Jinping. Yeah, no, sorry Anwar, but your own people don't agree with you. Malaysia seems to be thinking that it is a superpower able to be a hero of the universe, when in reality, nobody actually seeks out Malaysia's opinion. Nobody actually cares about what you're saying, regardless of what your Abim Machai thinks.
But anyway, couple important things to think about.
Three main things here that I think that the Indians are saying, and I think that I agree with all of them. Number one, if you don't practice what you preach, then you shouldn't be talking. You say that you want to help with mediating, but over the past couple of weeks and months of your premiership, I don't really see you coming out there and helping to mediate between the Chinese, Indians, and Malays of this society. And you know, a lot of these things actually have like feedback loops right here, and let me tell you about one that's like kind of sad right now. Because right now, Anwar, there are people in your country who are casually making use of this issue, right? To mock local Indians and use every single opportunity to not just make use of the quill, haram, durian, or otherwise to mock minorities in Malaysia, but now to make this special link between the Indians of Malaysia and the situation in Kashmir. If you don't actually have any mediation skill, then what business do you have actually going out there and then saying, oh, like you want to help? You can't even help yourself. Number 2, if you're biased towards the Muslim world and clearly adverse to India's interests, then maybe you shouldn't try to mediate. You know, it's never a good day when you find yourself on a list of countries that includes Iran. I mean, like, if you're going to go out and use obviously biased terms and obviously biased language, then what reason does India have to trust you as a so-called mediator when you're pretty much going to just rule in Pakistan's favor? That's not helpful for India at all. Maybe it is for Pakistan, who, as Palki noted, is vastly weaker. The fact is that A, yes, you are a Muslim, but B, this issue also came up before with Dr. Mahathir, comparing it to Gaza, to the point that India literally cut off its palm oil imports, which I wonder if you actually thought about when you entertained that conversation, claiming that you want to be constructive and then ignoring the fact that people had a literal terrorist attack on their soil is not a good way to go right there. It seems that the person who made a diplomatic faux pas right here, it's not India, it's your government. And number 3, you shouldn't be falling into people's strategies just like that. And there we have it right there. If we were to quote the Singaporean politician Sim Ann, this is the point where Pakistan has
true pattern
and now has brought you straight into the fold of this strange conflict where now you are responding as a so-called member of the Ummah to play into the little pity party, which by the way got us the Rohingyas, which by the way none of us actually like, and also now are putting you in the middle of this great diplomatic kerfuffle. And so it seems that Pakistan has been tremendously successful at distracting you from the fact that there was a terrorist attack which they actually conducted, or that somebody who is not the Pakistani government actually conducted. Like, you think that this is a simple phone call, but you have forgotten the 26 people who died in Pahalgam. You are forgetting the entire complexity of that entire issue, which basically calls to mind the Operation Gibraltar. So for those of you who don't know the context, what Pakistan is doing right now actually kind of falls into a similar pattern to what it did back in 1965, and almost kind of falls into the pattern of what Hamas is doing around the world now. Basically attack somebody and then later try to get people to show pity for what you are doing, and before you know it, now everybody is worrying about an international crisis, which of course makes things difficult for India and easier for Pakistan. Wow. How wonderful. I don't know whether you're gonna go out there and write a full-on play victim. My heart is painful. This is for social justice statement out there. But you know, I have to say more about that. Like, if you're thinking that this is going to be politically popular, like, you know, you might actually be right. Because if you go right now on Facebook, on any Sina Harian article where it talks about India attacking Pakistan, you're gonna see people with crying emojis and anger emojis. While if you think about articles where it says that Pakistan attacked India, you're gonna see people with laughter emojis and stuff out there showcasing the ugliness of your country. And here you have it, religion and politics connecting with one another as the worst elements of your entire country come to the fore. Maybe you're thinking of your solidarity, justice, Abim days where you thought to yourself that you could somehow speak without the weight of a Prime Minister casually yapping out along the way. But PMX, do you know how important this relationship is for your own country? I really have to wonder. India is the largest palm oil export destination of our entire country. You know that we buy rice, sugar, onions, and pharmaceuticals from India, with $20 billion of trade and an engagement with one of the world's greatest superpowers, even if there are racists in your country who don't want to interact with them. And do you know that your relationship with Pakistan is only $1.5 billion? And you trade with them rice, okay, textiles, surgical instruments, and halal meat. You trade $1.5 billion, $18.5 billion less during the 2023 to 2024 year compared to India. And you're literally importing halal meat to Malaysia from Pakistan. If you're literally just coming out there and looking at this like a Muslim or something like that, can I just tell you right now to stop it? Because frankly, every single time you come out and try to talk about how, we must care about social justice, people just respect you infinitely less. It's not like Lee Kuan Yew, where literally Henry Kissinger, George Bush, Margaret Thatcher all ask his advice, study his speeches, and learn from him day in and day out. I'm not saying that you're not wise, but there is a time and a place for everything to showcase your wisdom and to not fall into the pattern of somebody who wants to clearly manipulate you in order to cause a conflict. Have we not already had enough religious conflicts around the world without the one that you are fueling internationally and that somehow or another you are ignoring when it actually comes to being back home? I don't know whether you want to just become like an international Islamic hero of the OIC and savior of the world for all the Muslims on the planet or anything out there. But seriously, nobody needs this right now and nobody actually wants it except your Abin and a few people who somehow think to themselves that they need to Amar Ma'ruf Nahi Munkar, help brothers who, by the way, only want to make use of you in order to manipulate the people of the world. Anyway, to the people of India and to the people of Pakistan who are not involved in this whole kerfuffle and attempt to manipulate politics, I am sorry for my Prime Minister's interference. This shouldn't be happening because frankly, world leaders should learn how to mind their own business. If we want to be kind or charitable to Anwar, we can say, oh, maybe he didn't think about it, he just decided to make a post on social media. But like, for God's sake, there is a time and a place for everything, and there should have been a lot more sensitivity when it came to dealing with something like this. Because it's not like you're just casually going around and then like saying anything you want, like you actually carry our reputation, our name, and everything that we do along the way right there. And as Jai Shankar said, India does not need a preacher, it needs a partner. We hope that you can be the same for the people of Malaysia. Anyway, to the people of India, sorry about this. Thank you for calling out the Prime Minister. I apologize on behalf of Malaysia. Ciao and bye.